All Century 21 real estate offices are independently owned and operated.
This is the Real Estate Roundtable with Century 21 Jack Ruddy Real Estate. Good morning. I'm Jackie Ruddy, broker, and with my husband, fellow realtor, Pat Devaney.
How are you today, Jackie? You all better?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Okay, good.
How are you?
I'm very good. Jackie had the COVID a couple of weeks ago, and it really kicked her.
Yeah, it really did. I really got sick. And so here I am to talk about it. Thank goodness, right?
Good as new.
Slept for 36 hours straight.
Yeah, she did.
It was something that really flattened me. But we are with Rob Bistran of Bistran's Outdoor Services again this week. Thank you for rejoining us.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. We're excited to talk to you today about landscaping ideas for the fall. We're here every Saturday at 11 a.m., Sunday at 11:30 a.m., where we talk real estate. We have an exceptional real estate office with many full-time realtors who've been guiding, advising, and assisting clients in real estate matters for 50-plus years.
During the week, feel free to email us with any questions you have at questions@jruddy.com. That's questions@jruddy.com, or you can give us a call at 570-344-6724. And when you go to jruddy.com, click on the webcam tab on the top. We have a beautiful 4K camera up there with a nice view of Dunmore Corners. And you can see what's going on if you're nosy.
Look us up on social media. We're pretty much everywhere. Also, remember, jruddy.com is mobile friendly. We have all the MLS listings, our listings, and archive radio shows. That's jruddy.com, where we also have all the popular podcast apps that we feature this radio show on. Okay, Rob Bistran, owner of Bistran's Outdoor Services. A little rundown, please, of who you are, where you go, what you do, please.
Well, my name's Rob Bistran, and I own a landscaping company in Dunmore. We are a full-service landscaping company, everything from designing, building, and maintaining landscapes at your home and commercial businesses. I have been in business since about 2019 when I got bored at college one day, and here we are now. We service everywhere from Dunmore and the surrounding areas all the way down to about Duryea, up into Clark Summit and Waverly, and all the way up to Carbondale.
Good stuff. All right.
He went to school for this.
Yes.
He's very educated in this. He's not just some
very
kid
knowledgeable.
who slapped some sticker on the side of his truck. He really knows his stuff.
Yeah. And so we found that out last week when we were talking about fall landscaping and the things that you do. There are apps that we have on our phones, right? So one that keeps coming up, it's a commercial on my phone from time to time. I think when I'm maybe on social media, something about identifying a plant. There's some apps out there that if I took a picture of a leaf, it could tell me what kind of plant it is.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's actually a pretty popular thing in the industry to use. There's many different ones. I use one called Plant Snap, and I use it here and there. It's hard to remember every plant that we were taught in our program at school. So, it helps me identify planting materials that sometimes I can't remember at the exact moment that I'm looking at them. And it's as simple as pulling the app up on your phone. You take a picture, and then it gives you multiple options. So you have to kind of go through some of the options sometimes and decipher which one's the best. But it also helps us identify sometimes poisons that are out there in the field. So a lot of people don't know what poison ivy is, and we get phone calls all the time saying, hey, we think we have this, we see this vine thing growing through our landscape or up the tree. We think it's poison. It could help a homeowner that likes to do their own landscaping and stuff to they could take a picture and then maybe decipher what it is before they make a phone call to a professional to take care of it.
So there's poison ivy, there's poison oak. Is there poison sumac too? Is that another one?
Yeah, that's it's not so common, and you don't see that as much as poison ivy. I would say that seeing poison ivy is like the most common
That's the
one in the area.
Yeah, that's something that you want to try to avoid before touching, right? So it does make sense to get that app. And do you pay for these apps?
I personally do, just to get a little bit more extensive use out of it. You don't have to. There are free versions.
There are?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, good to know. All right. I hope the free one is accurate. That's the one I'm going to get on my phone after the show. All right. So last week we started talking about landscaping. Fall is a good time to continue with our landscaping efforts so that we have beautiful lawns in the spring and flower beds. There are mistakes to know and avoid. We talked about some of those last week, which shrubs, plants to cut back on, which ones not so much at this time of year. So what else can we do to help ourselves along in this area, please?
So there's a few different things. One thing could be maintaining your equipment before you put it away for the winter. So you want to make sure that you're cleaning your equipment properly before you put it away for the winter. One thing that a lot of people don't clean are their pruners. So if you don't clean your pruners before the winter, they're going to end up getting rusty if they're not stored in the right spot. You could build up rust on them, and then if you end up pruning in the spring for the planting material that needs to be pruned in the spring months, you could prune with a rusty shear, and then it could also not give a good cut, or it could also transfer a disease or something that has built up on it over the winter to the planting material. And then, worst case scenario, you could end up causing the death of the plant. And so it's important to clean your shears and everything before the winter. And another thing is your mowing decks. A lot of people don't flip their mowers on their side. If it's a push mower, obviously you'd have to find a way to pick up a bigger mower and scrape the bottom of their decks, because there's a high chance of mold buildup underneath. And then everything that you cut from there on out gets transferred back into the lawn, and you end up having moldy and mossy and bad spots in your yard. Another thing that we talked prior to the show was with the ethanol in the gas nowadays, to try and run a ethanol-free gas before the winter months, or even put some type of stable into the gas tanks to try and help them not get destroyed over the winter months while they sit idle.
Right. There was one thing you were talking about, the mower decks. I was just made aware of this earlier this summer, but I've looked at the lawnmower, and my son's got a little zero turn, and it looks like it's got a connection for a hose on it. And I was like, what's that? He's like, oh, you put the hose in there, you turn the hose on, and then you run the deck. And that runs in there for about 5 or 10 minutes, and it cleans the deck. I had no idea what that was for. So yeah, my son told me about that. And also with the ethanol-free fuel, it's kind of hard to get. There's one place that's up in Bill's Shore Safe has it, and then there's a place in Carbondale. I'm sure there's a few other places around. But that is so important, because the fuel today is 15% ethanol, and that ethanol, it evaporates, and it's so destructive, like to the diaphragms and the carburetors and this and that. So for small engines, I agree with you 1,000% to run the ethanol-free fuel in your small engines.
Yeah, it's a lot healthier for it, and those washing systems are pretty neat. It's still important to get under there and scrape, though, because
scrape it too.
If anything doesn't come off and you're letting the water build up underneath as you're washing, it could cause rotting to happen to the bottom of the mower deck. So you'll get a little bit longer life out of your mower deck as well.
Very good.
So this past summer, while my beautiful, gorgeous, lush green lawn disintegrated
turned to hay,
I noticed, though, there were things that were still growing very green and lush, weeds. They didn't stop growing, right?
No, definitely not. They thrive in the heat.
Yes, they do. They thrive all the time, no matter the condition. So they're the bane of my existence. Obviously, I don't like weeds, and I'm every week, and I'm out there pulling weeds. That's what I do. And it's very therapeutic for me. I like to do it, actually. It gives me some great satisfaction, yanking it out of the ground.
I think I found a good worker for you there.
All right. But anyway, now that I can kick my feet up, right? Now that it's fall, right? I don't have to pull those weeds anymore, right?
I wouldn't say that.
All right.
You could maybe take a break for a few weeks, but before the winter sets in, it's definitely a good idea to get those weeds out of the beds, so that way...
they won't come back next year?
Well, I'm not saying they won't come back, but if they go dormant in there and then they come back in the spring, they're going to push a harder root system, and they're going to end up spreading a lot faster and a lot harder. So it's a great idea to get them out of there before the winter, before they go dormant.
You know, Rob, I have weed barriers everywhere. Everywhere you turn, I have weed barriers, and those bloody stinkers still rear their ugly heads everywhere.
Yeah, and we have, my son's made a solution. It's vinegar. He'll use a little bit of orange oil and soap, and he'll put it in the sprayer, and he'll spray it on the weeds. And it kills the weed. I mean, they turn brown like within hours, but that doesn't, unless you really soak them, does that kill the roots, or is that just killing the leaves on the top there?
Most of the times it's just killing the stuff on the top.
Right.
A lot of the weeds in the area, you need a pretty good spray, like a harsher chemical to use on them to actually kill the roots. And I mean, they're rooted in the ground, so they're a little bit stronger than everybody.
But when he
thinks
does
they
his
are.
grandmother's sidewalk, she's got all the pavers. He really soaks it, and it smells like salad dressing when you're walking up the driveway.
It does.
It does.
That's awesome.
It smells like potato chips over here.
So the moral of our conversation today is yard work doesn't end with summer. Come spring, we'll be happy if we kept up with some fall landscaping, right? Is it time to cut down the entire garden?
Not quite yet.
All right.
So you want to work at that a little by little. You'll be able to see certain, like your herbaceous perennials and stuff, start to brown up a little bit. You could cut those back as they brown up a little bit. But like a lot of people have the big, tall perennial grasses, the best time to cut those back is in the month of January when it's really cold.
Really?
Yeah.
What do you do?
So you'll see them starting to flop over in the fall, and if you don't want them to be a huge mess, just take a piece of tie-away or a string and tie them up nice so that way they're not all over the place. And then come January or even like the end of December, January, just take a hedge trimmer or a set of clippers or something and leave them about a foot high so that way you're not taking all the growth off them. And then just clean up and throw the debris away.
Yeah, I was wondering about that.
Is that the ones on the driveway?
Yes, those are the ones in the driveway. And they really flourished we planted them last year, and they really flourished this year. They were tiny little things last year, and they've grown ginormous.
I water them.
Oh,
they
When
love
I'm watering
water.
the tomatoes, I water those.
Okay, that's the trick. All right, so how do we protect young trees at this time of year?
So you don't want to really prune trees within like the first 3 to 5 years of planting.
Really?
So like a lot of people think, fall time, let's cut the trees back, let's shape them up and everything. You really don't want to prune your trees for your first 3 to 5 years of planting. And then once you do prune them, depending on what type of pruning you're doing, whether it's like an actual structural pruning or just you're trying to shape them up, you don't want to structural prune them for another 3 to 5 years. So it's not healthy to cut a tree every year like a lot of people do. But I mean, shaping them up, just taking small new growth off of them isn't bad for them. It actually promotes a healthier growth. You just don't want to cut them back too hard this time of the year. And also, you don't want to prune in May and June. That's when the trees are also most susceptible to disease.
Really?
Yes.
Really?
Oh,
That's when they're doing most of their growth in May and June. So that's when they're working their hardest, and they're open. Like if you open the pores on the tree, that's when they're most susceptible to disease in May and June.
So if I'm planting a tree, what's the trick to planting a small tree?
So depending on the size of the tree, you want to dig your hole 2 times the size of the, say, like the root ball or
2
the pot.
times?
Yes. And then you want to dig the hole about an inch shallower than the pot or the ball. So you don't want to bury the whole tree in the ground. You want to leave it up about an inch. And then what a lot of people don't do is, like, as you're digging the hole, when you dig that shovel into the ground, you're compacting the sidewalls around the tree. You want to try and score them up or like stab them with the shovel to loosen that soil back up, so that way as the tree is pushing its roots, it's able to get through that and it's not fighting to get through. And so once you have your hole dug, you got the sides all nice and loose, so that way you're not fighting with the tree. You want to open, say it's a burlap tree, ball and burlap. You open the burlap up, and you could cut the metal basket that's around it just as back as far as you can. The metal basket will not impede on the growth of the tree at all. It's been studied scientifically. But a good thing to do is check your burlap on the tree. You take a lighter and you strike the lighter, get your flame, and you go up to the burlap. And if the burlap burns, you know it's true burlap and it'll just disintegrate, so you don't have to worry about getting the burlap off. If it melts, it's plastic. So it's important to get the plastic burlap off of the tree, so that way the tree does its correct growth. Otherwise, the tree's not going to make it. And then when you're planting, like after you do all of those steps and you put the tree in the hole, you want to just scrape the dirt off until you find the top root of the tree, because otherwise it's going to suffocate. The top roots need the air to dry up and function as they do. So you want to be able to see the top roots, put the tree in the hole, fill the dirt back in around it, up about halfway, pack it in there, put some water in there so that way some of the air comes out of the soil and it compacts as it should, so that way it's got stability, and then fill it back up the rest of the way. And same thing, water it in so that way you're getting your nice compaction lifts, and then put some mulch around it, but don't make a mulch mountain. Everyone calls them mulch volcanoes or mulch mountains around the trees. You want the base of the tree and the root collar to be exposed, because that's where the strength of the tree is going to be. So you want to keep the mulch away from that a little bit, and only about an inch or two thick.
Oh, very good. And what about that plastic sleeve that they put around the tree? Put one of those on it so the rabbits don't eat it? Or?
So it depends on the size of the tree and what kind of tree you're planting. I mean, if you're planting a more structural tree like the hardwoods or like a big maple, something that's going to be 20 inches in caliper and 50 feet high.
Like a fruit tree, like an apple tree or something like that.
That's a good idea for the first year or the first winter or something, just so that way the base of it is protected a little while. But you don't have to leave them on there all too long. They'll be okay.
Oh, then you take it off.
Yep.
Okay, good.
That is great stuff. I
Really
learned a
and
lot
truly.
there. But we're not planting any trees, are we?
No more trees. No, I had them. I got like 8 apple trees. The biggest ones I could buy, we did them last year, and I had a guy do it. And what you're describing is what he did, because the root is sticking out a little bit. So I was double checking him in my mind as you were telling the story. So he did a nice job.
Well, there was someone in the neighborhood that convinced everybody around us that had beautiful tall trees to take these trees down. And in fact, there's 2 that were left up that are completely massacred.
Oh, God.
They're awful. But it's like moving down to the beach and hating sand. You know, that's the analogy I try to make here, is why would you move to the beach if you don't like sand? Because sand is everywhere, right? Well, so all of these trees were massacred. So I made a personal promise to myself. For every tree that was taken down or massacred, I was going to plant one. But the problem is I don't have acres of land. I have a 50 by 180 or 60 by 180 lot. So we ran out of room. But we're not going to be planting any more trees, right?
No, we have trees someplace else.
All right. Okay. With us today, fellow Dunmorian, fellow Dunmore business owner, Rob Bistran, owner of Bistran's Outdoor Services. How does someone get in touch with you, please?
They can call or text us at 570-604-9427, or they can reach out to us via Facebook, and they can also reach out to us via email, which is listed on our Facebook page.
Thank you, Rob. Pat?
We have a 2-bedroom home at 101 Partridge Lane in Shahola for $339,000. This cedar home has endless possibilities, and it would be the perfect vacation home, dream home, or a hunter's haven. This home sits on 1 acre of cleared land with a beautiful wraparound deck and very nice views. This home is surrounded by state game lands. It's on a dead-end street, and there's drone pictures, and you can see there's nothing around it. It's the last thing there. This home has cathedral ceilings, plenty of windows. Upstairs, there's 2 bedrooms, and downstairs, there's room for additional bedrooms. This home also has new flooring and a whirlpool tub. That's a 2-bedroom cedar home at 101 Partridge Lane in Shahola for $339,000, and that's listed by Sam Shelter of our office.
Thank you, Pat. In our area, relaxing by a lake is a very popular and favorite activity for many people throughout all of the seasons. Lakefront properties aren't always the most affordable, yet in Pennsylvania we have one of the most affordable lake towns in the country. According to Realtor.com, Lake Ariel, which has a median list price of $307,000, is one of the top 10 most affordable lake towns in the country. Amazing. Isn't that nice?
Yes, and you were talking about sand. I used to live on the beach. Sand gets everywhere.
But would you move to the beach if you did not like or if you hated sand?
If I hated the ocean, no, I would not move to the beach.
So why would you move to a neighborhood with beautiful towering oak trees and then insist that everybody take them down?
That's the question of the day.
I have the answer, but I'm not going to say it on
okay,
here.
thank you very much.
Don't go anywhere. You're listening to the Real Estate Roundtable with Century 21 Jack Ruddy Real Estate on 94.3 FM. The Talker. We'll be right back. In your past real estate experiences, did you find most agents were mediocre? At Century 21 Jack Ruddy Real Estate, we defy mediocrity by being relentless. Don't settle for average. Contact the Relentless at Century 21 Jack Ruddy Real Estate. We have an excellent track record of serving the community for 50 plus years. Call 570-344-6724 or visit jruddy.com. That's jruddy.com. We're back with more Real Estate Roundtable with Century 21 Jack Ruddy Real Estate on 94.3 FM The Talker. I'm Jackie Ruddy, broker, and with Pat Devaney, my husband, fellow realtor.
And we're back with good information.
Excellent information. Rob Bistran, owner of Bistran's Outdoor Services.
How's it going?
Very good, because you're here. Fellow Dunmorian and fellow Dunmore business person, we thank you for being here. We've been talking about landscaping, fall landscaping, the importance of it. I would like to also talk to you about boulder walls. That's a service you provide. You build boulder walls. Let's talk about that, please.
Correct. So we build a lot of boulder walls and retaining walls. They're a lot of fun for us to build. It really changes the outlay of the landscape of the property. So you have a house or a property that has a big slope or incline to it, and you want to make some level ground or less of an incline to it. And even certain properties that we could tear off their properties to put maybe a fire pit in or something like that. It's a great way to extend the use of the property that you have available. They're pretty simple to build. It's just it's like playing with Legos. You have to stack them a certain way and interlock them and backfill them the right way, and they're beautiful. We use a couple different types of stones. We use just regular retaining wall block for some of them, but we also use we've used like a bluestone style boulder at one of our clients' houses along their driveway, and it made for a lot of curb appeal at their house.
Yeah, we walk around Dunmore a lot, and there's a lot of retaining walls, and there's a lot of retaining walls that need some loving, that are just like 100 years old in there.
They look like they're going to collapse at any moment.
And some of them do. And some of them do.
I believe it. I mean, the average life expectancy of a retaining wall is only as good as the material that you're using. So, I mean, if you're using a cheap material, you might only get 20, 25 years out of a wall. If you're using a higher quality product or even boulders that are a natural element, you're going to get much longer out of it. And it also depends on how you build it. So, I mean, there's certain steps that once a wall gets to a certain height that you have to take to make them structurally sound.
Yeah, nothing lasts forever.
So the point to all of this is, I'm hearing, get someone that knows what they're doing, because I think the excavation part is as important, if not more important, than the actual building of the wall. Oh,
absolutely. Yeah, getting everything right from the beginning is what's the most important. Putting the wall together isn't the hard part. It's the steps before and after the wall is put together. Yeah, good. They are beautiful. They are impressive, and they do add to the character of any yard or home. I could see why they would add curb appeal, definitely. There's a lot of landscaping. I've had situations in the past where I've shown people properties and they had beautiful landscaping, but that scares a lot of people. Too much landscaping could be just as bad as too little. And, no landscaping, obviously, it's missing something.
It's like a window without
Without a curtain on it, right?
Yeah. So
Absolutely.
yeah. So it's important to find that balance, and I see how a wall can add to the flavor and the atmosphere of a yard, specifically the backyard. So do you do a lot of them in Dunmore? Where do you go to do these walls?
We haven't built a boulder wall in Dunmore yet. There's not really a huge landscape for that. You kind of need a little bit more room to build a boulder wall.
More space.
Yeah, we have built a few up in Clark Summit in the Factoryville area where you have more space to create the designs that you're going to use.
So one of the things that we did earlier on in this show and last show is name all the things that you do. Can we run down the list, please? Because it's just not cutting grass and cutting shrubs. You do a wide variety of services for the outdoor areas, please.
Correct. So, we're a full-service landscaping company, so we do all of your spring and fall cleanups, your mulching, your pruning, your mowing. We do a little bit of fertilization in some yards and for plant health. We also do outdoor living areas. We have someone that helps us build kitchens and stuff like that. Boulder walls, retaining walls, seating walls around a patio that doesn't have, you don't have to retain anything with, but you still want somewhere to sit and when you're having people over. And we've been getting into a lot of concrete work, and we've done a couple stamp patios and stuff like that.
You design, you install, and you maintain. And one of the greatest services that you provide is you can go to a property and do a layout and design what kind of plants to plant and where to put them and what's going to grow and prosper in those areas, whereas your average homeowner may not know those tricks, tips, and have that knowledge base and experience that you have. Because you actually went to school for this.
Correct. I have a 4-year degree from Penn State in landscape contracting with a focus in design, and it really sets us away from other landscapers in the area.
And you're community-minded. You're very involved in the community, which is what we love and attracted us to you.
Yes, absolutely. I had the opportunity to work with the Dunmore Police last year around Christmas time with their Stuff the Cruiser. We were able to generate some gifts as well as provide transportation for all the gifts to where they needed to go, which was actually very humbling to me because it was nice to give back to a community that's given so much to me. And then just recently we helped the Dunmore Police with their National Night Out, and we were able to take cheerleaders and football teams on our trucks and trailers through the town.
Nice. Good stuff. Keep doing what you're doing. How does someone get in touch with you, please?
They can reach out to us via phone call or text message at 570-604-9427, or they can reach out to us on Facebook through Messenger, or they can send us an email, and our email is listed on our Facebook page.
Thank you, Rob.
Thank you.
Pat?
Yes. If you can't find the house you've been looking for, this might be for you. We have 20 acres of land on Archibald Mountain Road for $359,000. This property gives a lot of privacy and endless possibilities. The land is zoned residential, and the dimensions are, it has 335 feet of road frontage, and it goes back 1,100 feet and 1,400 feet by 855 feet. So if you're a developer or if you want to build and have some privacy, give us a call about this 20 acres of land on Archibald Mountain Road in Jefferson Township for $359,000, and that's listed by Mary Ann Duffy Mates.
And on this September 11th weekend, you typically have something to say, Pat. Would you like to take a moment?
I was a New York City fireman on September 11th, 2001, and it's 21 years later. And there's so many, we lost 343 guys that day. And the death toll continues to climb with people who are sick from what we were exposed to down at the Trade Center. So everybody thinks it's all over. But for guys like me, I mean, I'm sick from being down there too. So it just never ends. And I just want to say, never forget what happened on that day, because we're young guys like you who were 2 years old when it happened. It's just something that you read about in a book. But to me, it was something that's very real and very personal, and just I never want anybody to forget.
Thank you, Pat. We're out of time. Thanks for joining the Real Estate Roundtable with Century 21 Jack Ruddy Real Estate on 94.3 The Talker. We'll be back next Saturday at 11 a.m. and Sunday at 11:30 a.m.